answer.
Ding, 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 ding. Bruce Wolf and Carol Roth. Who are you again?
Who am I? I am a entrepreneur, recovering investment banker, and I play myself on television and on the radio today with you, Bruce.
And you went to Wharton.
I
Of course,
did.
Donald Trump went to Wharton,
We
too.
both did,
Of course,
yes.
he was a legacy or whatever. He got his dad. I think his mother is Lori Loughlin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And they paid for it. It
Yes.
had to be. Speaking of using clout to get into school, I saw this tweet. A whopping 37% of Harvard College's class of 2022 is comprised, would it be is composed? Anyway, of legacy students. So, that's just having your parents having gone to Harvard.
Well, it doesn't have to be your parents. It could be
or-
an uncle or some family member.
Right, but of course the chutzpah of the, and that's a legal term of art, by the way, of Harvard, because Harvard is always telling everybody else.
Harvard.
They're always telling everybody else to be diverse. And here they are with more than a third is clout got you in.
Well, it's interesting because Harvard's got like a $30-some-odd billion endowment. So I always say it's actually a hedge fund that is basically disguised as a learning institution anyway.
Well, all right. And because you know all those terms and can make jokes like that, I'm going to have to defer to you with our next guest here. We are pleased to be joined by Jeff Korzenik. He is the Chief Investment Strategist at Fifth Third Bank. I can't even balance my own checkbook, Jeff, so take it real slowly with me, all right? Appreciate it. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. You can pick on Harvard and Penn as much as you like. Just leave Princeton alone, okay?
Oh, snap.
Oh, wow. The only time I ever heard Princeton was in Risky Business when Joel, played by Tom Cruise, couldn't get in there. And then he ultimately...
Well, he actually did.
Well, he did because he was an entrepreneur.
He was
He knew how to do that. Well, Jeff, before we get into the things that I'll defer to Carol about, actually how to invest things, if we could look in a macro sense, because I'm always good about, the macro stuff. At least I pretend that I am. Will you please tell us, for example, how we're going to pay for the Green New Deal? How are we going to do that? Is that possible?
Well, first it'd have to pass any body of Congress. So I'm not terribly focused on paying for it until I think it has a chance of passing.
All right. Well, as Jerry Reinsdorf once said, always put off till tomorrow what you don't have to do today, because the problem could take care of itself in the meantime. All right, tell us how to balance our checkbook right now, or maybe you can ask a more refined question.
Perhaps let me take this one, Bruce. So, Jeff, great chatting with you. Obviously, you got some consumer sentiment information coming out today. What does that say about the state of the economy, and where do you think we're at?
So I'm a little bit of a contrarian on consumer confidence in the sense that we don't place a lot of weight on that. Here's how it works in the United States. When consumers are confident, we spend. And when consumers are not confident, we spend and call it retail therapy. So what really drives the consumer is household income. We have a very positive view of household income because we're at the sweet spot of the labor market from a macroeconomic standpoint. Conditions in the labor market are quite tight. That means workers in the United States are getting real wage gains, but they are not so high that after being offset by productivity, they cause a problem for the Fed with end-use inflation. So 3.5-ish% wage gains in the United States that don't cause inflation because we have growing productivity mean we have an empowered consumer, and that's good news for the U.S. economy.
And I've heard these statistics recently that the Trump economy is helping people on the lower end, and I think this jives with what you're saying right here. And this may sound like a stupid question, but if things are getting better that way, then why is our life expectancy going down every year, and we have the opioid crisis? Am I missing something, or is there a Venn diagram that you can do right here for me?
So we think that's a legacy effect of the very slow recovery that we had and the very deep downturn.
And
So
if I can interject, Jeff,
sure, go ahead.
that's code for blame Obama. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you are talking to the last true nonpartisan and swing voter on the planet. So
Really?
I don't attach blame to this. I just try to lay out how we see things. We looked at what happened in the downturn and then the sluggish recovery. One of the most striking components of that was different than any modern post-World War II recovery was the way that the long-term unemployment exploded. So we've never seen long-term unemployment in modern American history to the degree we saw in the wake of 08-09. Give you an example, just measurements we use. But by 2011, half of everyone unemployed had been unemployed for more than 6 months. And that is a real weight on the economy. It causes despair. It's no doubt part of the reason that we saw the growth of the opioid epidemic, just people self-medicating, the sense of despair that was present. And you couple that with this incarceration and recidivism cycle we've been locked in, and that's done a lot of damage, but that's starting to be unwound today, which is great news.
All right, but here's the problem. And of course, if we get Stephen Moore, who's just going to be the puppet of Donald Trump on the Fed or whatever, is this just the sugar rush that we're getting from what Trump has done with the economy? And are we headed and we're due for a recession one of these days anyway, right? So, what's around the corner, Mr. Investment Guy?
So we don't view this as a sugar rush. Particularly the corporate tax reform really made the U.S. tax structure competitive on a worldwide basis in a way we were not before, and that's very, very important. The other thing that has come largely with the administration is this pro-business message that has elevated business confidence. Unlike consumer confidence, business confidence matters because it drives investment for the future, and that helps sustain a longer recovery. Expansion.
Jeff, one of the things I know that you are particularly passionate about is helping those who have been marginalized through this downturn, as well as just from some other social issues, whether it be people who were formerly incarcerated or were subject to the opioid epidemic or whatnot, to re-enter the workforce. Can you talk a little bit about why that's so important?
Sure. If you were to look at the unemployment rate and traditional responses of the economy when you get unemployment this low and you get labor markets this tight, that usually means that a recession is right around the corner, or say 6 months to 18 months away. But we've never had a condition where we've had so many sidelined workers. And so to the degree we can get people who are on the sidelines, who are of working age and willing to work back in the workforce productively, given the sheer numbers, we could extend this expansion by at least another 2 or 3 years.
Wow. You're so sanguine about all this. I tend to be the pessimist. As you from my questions before, I'm worried about. Are we going to see a population boom in the United States? Because the irony is, if we don't bring in the immigrants, we're really not reproducing ourselves anymore. I think the rate was like 1.77, which you need 2.1. And don't ask me why you need 0.1 of a child in order to replenish the population. But it does seem like we're going in the direction of extinguishing ourselves. Am I wrong about this?
No, Bruce, you're absolutely right. If you look at long-term structural constraints on the economy, meaning how fast can we grow over time, it's a function of two things. How fast can you grow your workforce, and how productive can they be? And how productive can they be is a function of how much investing we're doing, but there are limits to that. The workforce growth, ultimately, we will need immigrants, and we will need more immigrants in this country. But for now, the tightness of the labor market, because we have restrictions on immigration, are helping get the business community invested in solving some of these social ills. Just to give you two quick examples, if I could. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce recently came out with a new initiative to help employers help their employees who are struggling with addiction. So instead of firing the people, They're looking at ways, how can we support employees, keep them gainfully employed while helping them through rehab. That's a sea change in how business approaches these kind of issues.
Yeah.
The other data point is a great initiative. It's a joint initiative. It's being led by the Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM. That's the trade association credentialing organization for human resource potentials. They're working with the Koch Foundation, and they've started a Getting Talent Back to Work initiative, which is focused on helping the business community understand how do you hire people with criminal records, when should you do it, what are the ramifications of it. So to your earlier point...
There's one more question, one more suggestion, and we have to wrap up, unfortunately. I want Carol in her high-end Streeterville area to hire somebody from Rogers Park, a native American, and pay that person $25 an hour to mow her lawn. What do you think of that, Carol?
Which, by the way, is amazing since I live in a condo that has no lawn.
I don't care
so
if you don't have a lawn.
Well.
Pay somebody $25 an hour to make sure that the Tsarnaev brothers don't attack Jussie Smollett in your building, okay? Hey, Jeff, seriously, no, those are great initiatives, and it's great work that you're doing. And thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Jeff Korzenik, Chief Investment Strategist at Fifth Third Bank. Bruce Wolf and Carol Roth in for Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Hear